It's been a full 6 weeks or so without a book haul, so I don't know what I've been doing with myself. I think I have about 13 or 14 books to share, so let me just get started. I've always liked this first writer. I always read her in the London Review of Books, to which I have a subscription. And I know about her work, her book-length work, that is, but I've never been able to find it in a bookstore until the other day when I just happened across it at a 20% off sale at the Memorial Day sale at Half Price Books. It's Maria Warner. She's an essayist for publications like the London Review of Books, but she also writes a lot about myth. And this is one of her newer books. It's called Stranger Magic, Charmed States and the Arabian Nights. And it's basically a translation of some of the tales from the Arabian Nights, followed by some of her commentary about the stories. So it looks really, really fascinating, and I've always wanted to read something by her, so I picked this up. Also, Half Price Books. This is a part of the world that I feel I know way too little about, and so I kind of wanted to remedy that. I have no idea when I'll be able to actually make it through this 750-page book, but I'll try. It's called The Fate of Africa. It's by Martin Meredith. I skimmed through it, and it looks to be kind of a post-colonial history of Africa, say the past 50 or 60 years especially. But it covers a lot of really interesting people whose names I should know. Like I was just skimming through it the other day after I bought it, and I came across the name of Kwame Nkrumah, who used to be the president of Ghana, and mentioned that I had no idea who that was. And that sort of led into a conversation of who he was and why he was actually really important, and that I should probably remedy some of those gaps. So there you go. This was also just on the discount shelf. Lincoln's Virtues by William Lee Miller. I looked it up on Goodreads, and it seemed to have a pretty respectable rating. It's subtitled An Ethical Biography, so it seems like it could be interesting. This is another one of those books that if you troll Half Price Books nearly as much as I do, and I'm sure there are some of you out there, you see these modern classic reprints every once in a while, and sometimes they ask, $4, $5, $6 for them. But if you wait long enough, they eventually end up on the discount shelf for $1, and then when it's 20% off, that makes them 80 cents. And no, I won't pay $6 for it, but I'll pay 80 cents for it. I'd never heard of E.F. Benson until I saw and was waiting for the price to come down. Apparently he wrote this whole this whole series of Lucia books. This one is called Map and Lucia. And I guess in the 30s and 40s they were just really, really popular. And there's a quote on the back from Noel Coward, Gertrude Lawrence, Nancy Mitford, and Auden, saying that we will pay anything for Lucia books. So apparently they had some pretty illustrious admirers too. So this is Confessions of an English Opium Eater by Thomas de Quincey. It also has some of his other writings in it too, which I didn't realize when I bought it, but it has Suspiria de Profundis, and it has The English Mail Coach, and a couple of other pieces. But I mostly bought it for the Confessions of an English Opium Eater. And it's basically about what the title says. he talks about being a drug addict 200 years ago. It might be one of the first sort of conventional drug addict autobiographies that I can personally think of, at least. If you know an older one, let me know. Melville is usually considered a pretty great writer, at least if you're talking about some of his short stories or Moby Dick, certainly. But Pier, I don't know if you've ever heard of Pier or The Ambiguities. It got a really, really bad rap when it came out. I mean, it just got trashed. And it's still sometimes called one of his absolute worst pieces of fiction. I mean, it's a novel length book. I mean, it's not a short story or anything, but no one liked it when it came out, and it was on sale and a discount on top of that. So I thought I would get it. This is another one of those interesting little finds you see when you get down on the very bottom shelf. This is a book of literary essays by Alfred Kazin, who used to be, one of the eminent literary, maybe a bit of a popularizer, but still very literary and scholarly and thorough, writer back in the 40s and 50s, mostly. And here's the book. It's called Contemporaries. Alfred Kazin, let's see, yeah. But, I mean, it's just a series of essays on everything from their essays on psychoanalysis and literature. There's an essay in here on Lawrence Durrell, by the way, KCRXRD. And there's also just some random pieces of stuff that I didn't notice. But his stuff is really hard to find because a lot of it's out of print. He's not around anymore. He's not writing anymore. But I mean, other of his contemporaries, sort of like Lionel Trilling, is probably much better, much more read at least. But I was really interested to find this for $3. These books sort of look cheesy. I mean, the kind of book that it is. But it was really inexpensive, and I got it. It's called The Modern Mind. What's the subtitle? An Intellectual History of the 20th Century by Peter Watson. This is one of those books that I think tries to touch on every little important thing that happened in the 20th century, but I actually did end up flipping through it and learning new things, and seeing some new names. So I might actually end up taking a few things away from it anyway. There you go. Okay, just 6 more. I've always liked Michael Dirda. He's another writer and reviewer. I think he writes for a Washington paper. And I've seen Grace Eichmeyer mention his name before, and maybe even one of his books. This is Classics for Pleasure, and it's just, I'll read you a few of the names on the cover: Sappho, Anna Akhmatova, Lao Tzu, Edward Gorey, Beowulf, Mary Shelley, Jules Verne, Isaac Denison. So, I mean, it sort of covers the gamut. And basically what it is just really, really short essays on either a book or a writer, introducing you to that book or that writer's work. And Michael Dirda is just really smart. He's really widely read, and he's done his homework. I mean, these are not essays where you go to learn a lot about where you're jumping in. It's just sort of to get your feet wet for a number of different people. but it's really interesting stuff. I also bought On Hyung by Anthony Stevens, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's put out by Penguin. There you go, Penguin. And it's just about Carl Jung, who I don't know nearly enough about. So I was also really excited to find this book by Bernard Williams. Excuse me. By Bernard Williams, who is an English philosopher, or was an English philosopher and ethicist. This book is called Ethics and the Limits of Philosophy by Bernard Williams. His work is really hard to find because it's usually just really overpriced or out of print. I also bought Varlam Shamalov's Kolenia Tales, which is a book based on the events at the labor camps near Kolenia in Russia in and around the time of World War II. About 3 million people died in those camps, and they were gulags. And the author himself spent an extended amount of time, I think 15 or 20 years in the camps. And these are stories that are based off of things that actually happened. And they actually have a sort of vaunted place in the history of 20th century literature. They're pretty well known. I've never read anything by Rebecca West, so when I saw this, I picked it up. It's called The Return of the Soldier. It's about a soldier coming back from World War I, and the problems that he has and the shell shock that he suffers. Excuse me. In fact, that's where we got the term shell shock from, soldiers coming back and having these PTSD-like symptoms, if not PTSD itself. And this is the last one I have to show you. Also on the discount shelf, this is James Fenton. He, I think he spent his 5-year stint as professor of poetry at Oxford, and these are his written up lectures that he delivered while he was there. It's called The Strength of Poetry. It's the Oxford Lectures. So James Fenton is he publishes in I think the New Yorker and other sort of literary things like, NYRB and London Review of Books and things like that. But I'm interested to see what he has to say about poetry as an art and what he would have to say in some lectures. So I bought this. Okay, guys, if you've read any of these, or if you have any opinions or have any questions about any of these, let me know, and I'll do my best to answer them. I'll talk to you later.